What happens when a simple question changes a billionaire's entire perspective on life? You're about to find out why this moment went viral and touched millions of hearts worldwide. Picture this: Marcus Rivera, CEO of one of the fastest growing tech companies in Silicon Valley, sitting at an upscale cafe with his daughter, Emma. He's dressed in his usual sharp blue suit, checking emails between bites, when something completely unexpected happens. His little girl, wearing her favorite pink tulle dress, suddenly points across the patio and asks a question that stops him cold. What she said next didn't just surprise him, it completely transformed how he saw the world around him. It was a typical Saturday afternoon in downtown San Francisco. Marcus had promised Emma a special daddy-daughter lunch after another week of 12 workdays and missed bedtime stories. They chose their usual spot, an elegant French bistro where the staff knew their order by heart. Marcus loved this place because it was quiet enough for him to handle urgent calls while Emma colored in her activity books. But this Saturday was different. As they settled into their wicker chairs, Emma seemed more observant than usual. She wasn't interested in her crayons or the fancy kids menu. Instead, she kept looking around, taking in everything with those curious blue eyes that reminded Marcus so much of his late wife. That's when Emma spotted her. Sitting alone on the ground near the cafe's entrance was a young woman, maybe in her early 20s. Her clothes were worn and dirty, and she had a small cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps." Most people walked past without making eye contact. Some crossed to the other side of the street entirely, but Emma couldn't look away. Marcus was deep in responding to emails about a crucial merger when he heard Emma's small voice, "Daddy, she looks hungry. Can I share my food with her?" He looked up from his phone, slightly annoyed at the interruption, and followed her gaze. His first instinct was to give her the standard response, something about how they couldn't help everyone, and how there were proper channels for these things. But something in Emma's expression made him pause. There was no judgment in her eyes, no fear or disgust like he'd seen in so many adults, just pure, innocent concern for another human being who looked like she needed help. "Please, Daddy, she hasn't eaten anything since we've been here." Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. Here was his 4-year-old daughter, who had everything she could ever want, genuinely worried about a stranger's well-being. When was the last time he had noticed someone in need? When was the last time he'd stopped to actually see the people around him, instead of just obstacles to navigate around? He looked at the young woman again, really looked this time. She was probably around the same age as the junior developers at his company. She could have been someone's daughter, someone's sister, and she was sitting there, invisible to almost everyone, including him. Marcus made a decision that surprised even himself. "You know what, sweetheart? That's a really good idea." He stood up, taking Emma's hand, and walked over to where the young woman sat. Her name was Sarah, and she'd been on the streets for 3 months after aging out of foster care with nowhere to go. What happened next wasn't just about sharing a meal. Marcus invited Sarah to join them at their table. Emma chatted with her like they were old friends, asking about her favorite colors and whether she liked butterflies. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but because it had been so long since someone had simply treated her like a human being. As they ate together, Sarah shared her story. She'd been studying computer programming before everything fell apart. She was actually incredibly smart and motivated, just dealt a terrible hand by circumstances beyond her control. Marcus found himself genuinely interested in her ideas about app development and user interface design. But the real transformation happened when Marcus looked at his daughter. Emma was completely natural with Sarah, sharing her French fries and giggling at her jokes. She didn't see someone homeless or different. She just saw someone who needed a friend. In that moment, Marcus realized his 4-year-old was teaching him something profound about basic human compassion. The story could have ended there, a nice moment that everyone forgot by the next week. But Marcus couldn't stop thinking about what Emma had shown him. He started seeing homeless individuals everywhere he'd somehow been blind to before, on his drive to work, during lunch meetings, even right outside his company's gleaming headquarters. So he did something that shocked his board of directors and made headlines across the business world. He announced that his company would launch a program specifically designed to hire and train people experiencing homelessness in tech skills. They'd provide temporary housing, meals, and intensive coding boot. The program was called Second Chances, named after what Emma told Sarah that day. Everyone deserves a second chance to be happy. Sarah became the program's first success story. Within 6 months, she was working as a junior developer at Marcus's company. Within a year, she'd developed an app that helped connect homeless individuals with local resources and services. The app has now helped thousands of people across the country, but the ripple effects went far beyond that. Other CEOs started similar programs. The story spread across social media, inspiring families to have conversations with their kids about empathy and helping others. Schools started teaching lessons about homelessness and poverty, helping children understand these complex issues in ways. Marcus began bringing Emma to volunteer at local shelters, not as a photo opportunity, but as regular family time. He scaled back his work hours to be more present with his daughter, realizing that she was already teaching him lessons no business school ever could. The young woman they met that day wasn't just hungry for food, she was hungry for dignity, for someone to see her as more than her circumstances. And it took a 4-year-old to recognize that hunger and do something about it. Studies show that children are naturally more empathetic than adults until society teaches them to look away from uncomfortable situations. Emma hadn't learned to ignore people in need yet. Her simple question came from a place of pure human instinct to help others, something we all had once but often lose as we get older and more focused on our own lives. This story reminds us that sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the smallest voices. Emma didn't overthink the situation or worry about social norms. She saw someone who needed help and wanted to share what she had. It's a lesson that changed not just her father's life, but eventually touched thousands of others through the programs and awareness that followed. The next video will show you 3 simple ways any family can teach children about empathy and social responsibility. Click it now to discover how small actions can create massive positive change.